Hey guys, this is Kyle Dawson from Disc of Revolution, and today I'm going to be talking about my favorite band and the what's, ifs, and buts about them, Linkin Park. I'll be talking primarily about the band in general, I'll give a brief overview, and I'll give a bit of a reason as to why they are still probably my favorite band of all time. I'll be discussing their run before fame, their run during the 2000s, and I'll be discussing their current controversial run with Emily Armstrong as the lead singer. I hope you enjoy the video. I hope you like, subscribe, do whatever you need to, and I hope we can all just listen to some really good music. Now, truth be told, I didn't get into Linkin Park during their heyday. In fact, I actually got into them pretty late. And that was just because I was born in the exact same year that Hybrid Theory came out, and everyone knows Hybrid Theory by now. I don't think it's going to take much explaining to kind of understand just how popular Linkin Park as a band is. In the time between at most 1995 to 2000 and I'd say 2001, Linkin Park wasn't actually known as Linkin Park fully. They were known primarily under different names like Zero and Hybrid Theory, and they sounded exactly the same from how you'd think they'd sound nowadays. From playing in virtually unknown pubs and bars and dive bars to playing stadium shows with people screaming their lyrics is quite a jump. And it's really all thanks to, well, Mike Shinoda and obviously the elephant in the room, Chester Bennington. I don't think I need to explain Chester to anyone who has listened to hard rock or metal in the day and age. It's not particularly hard to know Chester by this point. I think it's safe to say that with Chester as lead singer, Linkin Park had finally found its footing, and thus Hybrid Theory was made. Hybrid Theory was an absolute success upon its release in 2000, and firmly planted Linkin Park in the zeitgeist of the early 2000s. They followed up the next 2 years with nothing but tours, nothing but shows, and then in 2003 they dropped Meteora, which in my opinion is their best album ever. It mashed different genres together in a way that was not only just cohesive, it was also incredibly good to listen. Inspired by different bands like Nine Inch Nails, Tool, and even to an extent Deftones, Meteora is an incredible success in hard rock and heavy metal, to the extent that almost every band nowadays has some tie to that album. And then later down the line, after hundreds of shows, appearances on talk shows, and millions of sold records, Linkin Park released a controversial album at the time, but an album that I tend to like nowadays. They released Minutes to Midnight. People used to label the album as just another rock album and a departure from the sound, but in truth, the roots of Linkin Park are still there. There is still heavy sounds on Minutes to Midnight, but there is also mellow sounds. There are sadness, there's happiness. It was controversial, but it progressed the band in a very good direction, and in a direction that I wish they stuck to, even up to Chester's death. Minutes to Midnight at the time was a controversial album, but in my opinion nowadays, I think of that album as very good and very progressive in a way that hard rock doesn't really see nowadays. I'm going to skip a couple of albums here, and I actually do really want to cover Chester's death just in this little section of the video, because quite frankly, I don't think I need to make this any more obvious or any other descriptive word. Chester is my hero. Chester is my favorite vocalist ever. And this is coming from a guy who listens to brutal death metal, who listens to technical death. I listen to prog. I listen to a whole bunch of bands with way better vocals. It's just the way that Chester can convey emotions and the way that he can sing was inspiring, to say the least. And as a kid with pretty bad emotional disorders and admittedly some stuff I'm dealing with now, someone who went or someone who is going through something that I was going through or something that I'm going through right now, it felt like a hug. And when Chester passed in 2017, it hurt everything. It put everything that the band was doing on hold at the time. All shows were canceled, family meetings were canceled, a bunch of things. It was an absolute mess. And I can't blame anybody for how that must have gone, because you lost your lead singer to something that he was very, very adamant about, and something that he wasn't really getting help for. It hurt me personally as a fan, and eventually I did go and watch the Celebration of Life concert that they had, which featured all manners of different cameos. Some that I rather don't like, but I don't really care because it's the music industry. People are going to be friends. Altogether, almost 7 years later, Linkin Park ended up announcing that they finally decided to bring a new lead singer back and restart music, which I don't think I need to explain was a very big deal. They brought on Dead Sarah's Emily Armstrong as a lead singer, which was seen in the first couple of weeks as an amazing new thing. And then very much a month later, it was discovered that Emily Armstrong was or is a Scientologist and was at one point defending a very known rapist in court. So, already off to a bad start, because Scientology as a whole does not believe in the study of mental health, which is scientifically backed. And Danny Masterson, the now convicted rapist, it doesn't look good on a band with the lead singer who very much died because of his mental health struggles and because of things that happened to him in his childhood. Now, me personally, after listening to the new material that Linkin Park has come out with, I don't recognize the band that I used to listen to, and I am not saying that it is a bad thing. In fact, I'm very open to new things with this band. My only issue is that it doesn't sound like the old Linkin Park. It doesn't sound like Meteora. It doesn't sound like Hybrid Theory. It sounds like Minutes to Midnight. And whilst I do think that drawing from that album is a very good thing to do, because it was very progressive of their sound, it was very good in terms of what that band could do, I definitely think that to get the most out of this new lineup for the band, they really need to dig into the Meteora Hybrid Theory sound, because that is what made that band popular. That is what people know the band for. Because, just quite frankly, those are their best albums. Those were the albums that progressed a sound that every band from the 2000s knew. And the truth be told, the new songs don't sound like that. They're good. And they're painfully good. I wish that they were different. I'm speaking off of script here. In my personal opinion, I am a fan of the new things that Linkin Park has come out with. I think it's very progressive of their sound. The only thing I can't get past is the feeling that they're not doing this out of the kindness of other people's hearts. I am desperately hoping that they prove me wrong, and I am actually really hoping that Emily Armstrong is welcomed into the fold, even if people aren't really the biggest fans. In fact, I really hope that this new album is a success, because I think that there is a great launch pad for something great here. The only issue is the people that are comparing it to Chester, which I don't think I need to explain why that's a bad thing. The bias that the current community has, and even technically my bias too, for Chester over Emily, is what is going to cause people to not like this band. And granted, that is just the world we live in nowadays. The world and the interconnectivity of everything has allowed people to essentially keep their opinion solid, and the I'm right, you're wrong mindset is firm in comment sections, posts, message boards, whatever you want to call it. I hope that this bias ends. And I actually really hope that Linkin Park as a band gets success and eventually goes back to what they did best. Because it's hard. It's hard not listening to a band with one of your favorite lead singers of all time in it, especially given the horrific things that lead singer has gone through, and the lengths that they went to essentially try and keep it to themselves. Linkin Park are my favorite band, or is my favorite band, because, not because of their progressive sound, or the fact that they changed the industry. It's primarily the fact that they knew how to make songs that sound good, but also conveyed a very specific theme. There are not a lot of bands that can keep a consistent theme in their songs nowadays that I listen to that do it about as good as Linkin Park, and every song feels like I'm staring at an art piece. I hope that I hope that other fans of the band can understand my point of view. And admittedly, even though I just made a mistake in saying that it's hard listening to a band with your favorite lead singer, I hope that the general consensus is that I am not attacking the band. I just hope that they can get past this patch, this new rough patch, where they're essentially starting over. And I hope that the community can, at most, accept Emily Armstrong. It doesn't matter whether they like it or not. I just hope that they can get over the bias for Chester, because Mike has already made it clear that they're not trying to replace Chester. They're not trying to erase the former past from the band. They're going about it in a way that they purely want to do for the fans. And yeah, I don't have much else to say. Linkin Park is my favorite band because of my own very specific reasons. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you can come back to this channel anytime soon for music recommendations, for other opinions, or even just to leave a comment, leave a like, whatever you wish to do. I appreciate you watching this video. Thank you very much. Have a good day.